In the previous video, Nick discovered that he is not a teenage girl, and therefore not Twilight's target audience. For part 2, he sought out someone who at one point was.
What are we talking about?
Twilight.
Woo!
Everyone, this is my sister, Abby. I said earlier in the review that Twilight is not a book meant for me, but Abby was, at one point, who Twilight was meant for. She read the first book in 2007, she has read every mainline book and seen every movie since, and she has continued to follow the broader Twilight pop cultural conversation to this day. So, thank you for being in my video.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I flew a long way, first time caller, long time listener, and I'm glad to talk about my favorite thing in the universe, how unhinged Twilight is.
Wonderful. The first time you read Twilight, what were your thoughts? What was that like?
I think I just started to read it because everybody was reading it, and then it just tickles something in your brain at a young age, and it just made me really desperate to have a vampire boyfriend. Me and my friends would draw in Sharpie like 2 dots right here and be like, oh, Edward sucked my blood last night. Like, it was really unhinged.
Okay, you know what? I think I remember this.
Yeah.
I think I remember you having those 2 dots right here. Like you and like at least one other girl I remember.
Yeah.
Did you still have the same kind of liking for it, or were you kind of starting to get tired of it by the end of it because you got older?
No, definitely still liked it. So I think I was maybe 16 or 17 when the last movie came out, and I was still like, me and my friend went like 2 weeks after it came out, and there was like 3 other people in the theater, but it's like the best time. It was a great viewing experience.
You were in middle school when you first read it, so what's changed between your perception then and your perception of the series now?
I don't think I realized how wild some of the things that are included in the series are. Just like minor details that you don't really pick up or notice when you're younger just reading it because it's like the vampire fantasy.
What are some examples?
Well, let's say not specifically in Twilight, but in The Life and Death of Bree Tanner book, where it discusses how she's listening to 2 vampires make out, and because their skin is as hard as diamonds, it sounds like what she describes mugs, like coffee mugs clinking together while they're making out. And it just, that sort of level of detail is just so wild for somebody to include in a book. It's like tectonic plates, like, like, you know what I mean? Like, what the heck?
Yes.
Like, why would you include such a detail? It's like you love to hate it and you hate to love it. And I feel like only people who can hate on Twilight are people who have read Twilight, which now you are part of the club. So you're allowed to hate on Twilight now, even though we all love it for what it is.
Right, of course.
The whole steez in society was to kind of like make fun of people who like Twilight, like, oh, you like Twilight? Kind of like how when pumpkin spice lattes first happened, people were like, you're so basic, you like a PSL. We've taken it back and made it our own. We're taking back Twilight and we don't feel guilty about it. And that's the sort of world I want to live in, America.
So you say that there's no shame in liking Twilight anymore, and that's great, but what is the general like consensus about Twilight to this day?
I think it's just like, this is a thing that happened to us that we're all, hi Lucy, that we're, oh, she wants to be in the video. Come on, Luce. Yeah. Everybody, look at the cat. This is Lucy. Say hello to the viewers. I don't think that it's as like looked down upon as it used to be. I think because people like retook ownership of it and are just like, this is the cool thing. If there are people out there who are like, that's so stupid, roll my eyes, it's like, just let people enjoy things, you know? We all love that we love this thing, and it's awful, and we love it still.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
Stephanie, I'm a huge fan though, just so you know.
I read the book. I didn't think it was like terrible, but I still got this feeling throughout that the movies were what really like sealed the coffin on Twilight as like an infamous meme. Do you agree?
Yeah, especially the first movie, which was directed by Catherine Hardwicke and had the infamous blue filter, which wouldn't have been so cool if like throughout the entirety of Bella's human life, you have the blue filter, and then when she finally turns into a vampire, that's when the blue filter is removed and she could like actually see. Wouldn't that have been so much better?
That requires artistry.
I know, right? And forethought, and the same director over the same amount of movies. There's just like this kind of conspiracy theory based on some creative choices that she made. It's like, did you hate this film or you just whack-a-doodle-doo in the head? There's a scene in the cafeteria where the Cullens are sitting around at the lunch table and Emmett, like the big beefy vampire, he has a bag of like 12 hard-boiled eggs, just shelled hard-boiled eggs in front of him. But keep in mind that in this universe, vampires don't eat human food. So there's this vampire just walking around with hard-boiled eggs that he's not gonna eat. Now the reality of the situation is that the actor, who I can't remember his name, like Kellen Lutz or something like that, I think is his name. The actor who played Emmett had to be beefy and, you know, needed protein. So he was just chomping on eggs in between takes, I guess. And they just kept it in because he has to be a human in the movie. Yeah. And there's also a scene where they play volleyball in PE and a random little 6-year-old runs across screen. They're in high school and there's just like a 6-year-old present.
It was like a PA's like there or something.
I'm sure it was. Somebody's kid was on set and they just didn't want to reshoot, whether or not they didn't have the time or the money or didn't really care. But there is a 6-year-old in the Twilight universe in high school.
Maybe it's a 117-year-old vampire who got turned at 6.
You know that's illegal. You can't have vampire babies, and that comes up. That's relevant later on in the series.
No, like the kid like got bitten at 6.
Yeah, that's illegal. You can't have vampire babies. You can't bite children. Immortal children are illegal in this universe.
So you can't bite a 6-year-old human. Mm-mm. So wait, what's the age of?
I think they just have to be like maybe a teen. I don't actually know what the cutoff is, but the Volturi made immortal children illegal and against vampire law because of the threat they pose to risking the secret getting out. That's why the Volturi went after Edward and Bella and their daughter, because they thought she was an immortal child, not an actual child that was born. And then spoiler alert, it had happened before in South America.
Ooh.
It's wild.
I know they just haven't added to that cinematic universe since Breaking Dawn Part 2.
I guess there's no reason to. None of the books take place after what happened in Breaking Dawn. Any of the books that came out, the things already happened, it's just a different point of view. There's been like conjecture about whether or not Stephenie Meyer is writing another book that's like focuses on Ravioli and Jacob's relationship.
For those of you who don't know, explain the Ravioli thing.
So in Breaking Dawn, Edward and Bella have a baby. She thinks it's gonna be a boy. If it's gonna be a boy, she was gonna name it EJ for Edward Jacob, named after her 2 favorite men.
Oh, God.
I know, it's horrific. This woman, it committed crimes. However, Bella had a daughter, and they named her Renesmee, which is a combination of her mom's names, Renee, and then Edward's mom, Esme.
That. Yes, I thought there was something to that.
So there's kind of like a refusal to refer to her by her name, Renesmee, which is a dumb name. So any sort of R name, ravioli, regurgitation, recycling, anything like that. Refer to. Don't say that.
Okay, I'll bleep it out.
Yeah.
Hey, listen to this. It sounds like it could work if it weren't in the context of like young adult romance.
It's like a really great starting point for other people to do it better. Obviously it worked because of the huge hit that it was, but there are just some things when you look back on it that you're like, yikes, like why did he fall in love with the baby? Even though you know it's explicitly explained that it's not inappropriate in that way, he's still in love with the baby.
Infantophilia.
Yeah. I don't know what that means, but yeah.
I just made it up.
Oh, okay.
It's like, never mind, forget it.
Being scared of infants.
No, it's
Me too.
It's loving infants. Infantophobia is fear of
Oh,
infants.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Okay.
We're not talking about this anymore.
Water break.
You said Belle's a self-insert for Stephenie Meyer, right?
Yeah.
Let's go into that.
Yeah. So Stephenie Meyer is not like other girls, and neither is Bella. And that's a really important thing to remember. If there's ever any point in time where you're looking at the Twilight universe and you're wondering, why the hell is everybody going to such great lengths for this girl Bella? It's because she's not like other girls, and that's always the answer. There's just some of the way that Stephenie writes other female characters. You can tell that she had mean girls who were mean to her in high school, and you know, there were boys who liked her, and there were mean girls who were mean to her because boys liked her.
That's why there's all that teenage bullshit in the first half of the book.
With Lauren and
there's like 5 guys coming after her.
Yeah.
And then there's all the girls who hate her because the 5 guys are coming after her.
Yeah.
Dear me.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
You seemed really hung up on the khaki dress.
Yes. When Bella goes to meet Edward's family officially for the first time and like meet his parents, even though they're not really his parents, Carlisle and Esme, she wears a blue long sleeve like blouse/sweater and a floor length khaki skirt. Edward, when he sees her, is like, oh my gosh, you are utterly she goes, am I decent? He goes, no, you are utterly indecent. I can't believe, like, essentially implying that she's like dripping sex. This girl is wearing, like, can you insert a picture right here?
Yes.
Wait, right here.
Yes.
Here's this 117-year-old man who's like, you're indecent, and she's fully in like a robe. Like, what the heck? I mean, look at it.
For some reason, she is immune to his like mind reading abilities for no reason, and it fascinates him. So
There is like a scientific reason, technically, not really, but like a reason that is explained in the universe of Twilight as to why Bella's thoughts can't be read by Edward.
is she stupid?
In Midnight Sun, when Edward interacts with Charlie, he realizes that Charlie's thoughts don't come to him in like full inner monologue like how most people's thoughts do. Edward can only glean like a feeling, like maybe Charlie's feeling angry, but he can't hear the thought as to why Charlie's feeling angry. But then when Edward meets Bella's mom after she pretended to, or, you know, thrown down the stairs, falls down the stairs of a hotel,
falls down the
goes
stairs.
through a window.
Trips for the 5th fucking time in the book.
He describes it at Midnight Sun as if her thoughts are screaming at him, like she is like forcing him to hear what he says. So his conclusion then, after meeting both of her parents, is that whatever combination of their minds, that whatever wavelength they're on, made it so that Bella's thoughts can't be heard.
And you know, that brings up a good point, like, you know, because that's one of the fascinating things to Edward about Bella is that he couldn't read her thoughts, but I think he would find that if he could read her thoughts, there was nothing there.
Right, smooth brain.
Smooth. Hilarious.
Not that she's a dumb person, but I think he would have realized that she is like other girls. But that's also okay, there's beauty in that.
She just smells good.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the big criticisms I heard about Twilight as a series is that it's a bad example for young girls in terms of like how a relationship should be, like relationship goals.
Yes. It's a very like controlling sort of relationship. Like, I know better because I'm a man and a vampire sort of thing. Jacob kissing her without her permission, that's not great. Nobody caring that Jacob kissed her without her permission except Edward. Charlie not really caring that Jacob kissed her without her permission, that's pretty problematic too. That's why you kind of look at Twilight with like, yeah, it happened. It was, I guess, written at a different time. Maybe the movement around like awareness of certain type of like, I don't know if you would call it abuse, but the red flags that come with somebody who is controlling, maybe were not as prevalent in society like back then as they are now.
Sure.
People aren't as aware to look out for those things maybe. So I guess you could give it credence in that regard. But also too, when you think about like Stephenie Meyer being raised a Mormon, that's kind of like how Mormons are raised is, you know, the man is kind of the one controlling and making all the judgments.
Well, I cannot wait to watch this movie now. So until next time, see you all next time.